What is up, you guys? Happy May the 4th. That's when I'm recording this. Might upload it tomorrow, hopefully tonight. But today I wanted to talk about suffering from success, but also the idea of wasted potential. And I think Star Wars, more specifically George Lucas, is a perfect example of this. I think Star Wars had a very impactful experience on me growing up. I think if it wasn't for the Legos and the toys and me playing with them and building all these battles and building all these old worlds, I wouldn't be where I am today. And it really helped me push my imagination because, it's a galaxy far, far away. And there's so much to be explored within it. So I'm very grateful for Star Wars and George Lucas. But I really think George Lucas, as a creator, is some of it semi-disappointing. Because I think he's one of the greatest minds when it comes to creativity. And he kind of just walked away from it. Which is honestly just as impressive. Because I feel like in human nature, the hardest thing for us to do is try. And he did that. He tried and he made it happen. But then he walked away from it all. And the more I think about it, as a fan of him, I'm disappointed. But as a person living life, I think it's so impressive that he had a franchise. He had a dynasty, whatever you want to call it. He had accomplished greatness and he walked away from it. It's not like being an athlete where you reach your prime and then you have to go away. Like, he could have made the sequels if he wanted to. Like, he could have continued Star Wars for 3 more movies, but he was just drained and he was done. I read his book last summer, a biography on him. And, he was really artsy. He was super creative. And, he had all these artistic ideas that, were not conventional for filmmaking. And he didn't get to do them because of Star Wars. Because Star Wars was so sort of mainstream at the time. He didn't get to experiment as much as he did when he was in college and be as abstract. And I think the disappointing thing about it is, not that he walked away from Star Wars. I think that was the right choice for him. I think as you grow, you have to let things go. And for him, that was Star Wars. He had to let it go and move on. But the fact that he didn't embrace the young creative self that he was, the creativity wasn't flowing anymore. It's kind of sad. It's like Star Wars took everything out of him. That he just kind of just sold out and got the money and kind of lost himself in the process. And I think that happens to almost all of us on a smaller scale. We invest our whole life into an idea, to a job, to a person. And then so many years down the line, we kind of lose it. And it's not the same anymore. And then we're kind of just lost, and then we just embrace this cycle of nothingness. Honestly, I'm 23. I have a whole life ahead of me. But I feel like every week I have a new goal or a new idea or a new version of myself. And I'm always chasing something. And I wish I had a Star Wars in my life. But once again, what's going to happen once my Star Wars is gone? I'm not going to be a billionaire. Maybe I will. But if I become a billionaire, I'll be really disappointed in myself because I don't need that much money. But it's this idea of your potential and your creativity and just your ebbs and flows of your mind. How do we keep going? How do we not become George Lucas? He literally made Indiana Jones and American Graffiti. 2 amazing franchise Indiana Jones and a great movie in American Graffiti. The second one we don't talk about. But his discography is insane from that perspective. Obviously, he was an executive producer on some bad stuff that we don't talk about. And maybe that scares him. But it's he has nothing to lose. He made Star Wars. He should be able to create whatever he wants. And maybe he just doesn't create anymore. Which I think is probably the saddest thing. Because I think once you stop creating, regardless of how big or how small it is, I think that's when you lose. When you stop thinking freely. Granted, he's probably still creative. He probably still has original thoughts and ideas. But not as grandiose as they used to be. So, maybe he's still thriving. But for us, just everyday people, I think we should always be moving and flowing and trying to be creative as possible. Whether it's, taking a new route to work or doing something new, going to a run club, looking at the tree in the backyard and really seeing it, like, oh wow, that is an old tree. It's probably like this many years old. Like, wow, it's really pretty in the fall or this time of year. That's being creative. That's any original thought, not even any thought that comes to your mind, I think is a portion of creativity. Right now, I'm trying to go on a lot of runs and I'm struggling because I think on my runs. And like when I was a kid, I was a good runner. I had like a 5 minute mile. Right now, I can't even break like 7 minutes. And I don't get tired. My mind just tells me, no, I can't do it. But I need, like, and then when I was a kid, I could go on roller coasters and they didn't scare me. Now, shoot, the merry-go-round scares me, you know? And it's like, when we're kids, we have this, I feel like our conscious thought is unlocked to allow us to do stuff without the idea of people seeing or the fear of failing. And then I feel like once you hit like a certain age, our consciousness takes our subconscious, kind of takes over and it installs this fear factor of failure. Like George Lucas. I don't know him personally. And maybe he's done. Maybe he doesn't want to create anymore. Maybe he has no ideas flowing around. But maybe he's just afraid to fail again. You know, George, from like the book that I read and just the little bit that I know, I feel like he stayed young for a long time because he was an artist. He built this canvas for us, Star Wars, and we were all able to experience in our own ways and kind of have our own ideas of what would happen if we were a Jedi, you know, if we were a Sith, like what would happen, you know, because the galaxy is so wide. There's an opportunity for us to be in it. You know, who knows? Maybe Earth is so many miles away from in the Outer Rim, you know? And I think that's the beauty of Star Wars. And it's so disappointing. Not that George let Star Wars go, because I think at some point you have to move on. But I think it's the fact that he didn't move. He didn't move. Like, Star Wars kept going. There's still being stuff made, but George is here. Like, I think they should have branched out in their own ways. Where, you know, nowadays Star Wars is bigger than George Lucas. But I think in another life, George Lucas could have been bigger than Star Wars. American Graffiti. Indiana Jones is one of the most iconic franchises of all time. And he wrote it. He thought of it. Spielberg directed, but that was George Lucas who created it. He created Indiana Jones and Star Wars. That's insane. And he just stopped. And I think it's one of those things about growing up. When you start looking at your time and your money, you kind of lose that creative thought when that's all your focus is. Granted, he has $1 billion, $4 billion. He doesn't really think about money, and he has all the time in the world to do whatever, you know, he's retired. But I think when that becomes your focus, you lose your creativity. Because when you're creative, time and money don't mean a thing, because you're just being you, and you're maximizing your thoughts. Like right now with my job and stuff, I don't really check my bank account. I'm in a grateful situation where I'm making okay money. You know, I go to work, I think about being creative, do my job, be creative more, I guess. I don't know where I was going with that. I just want to make it about me, apparently. Sorry. But, you know, George Lucas and his wasted potential. Maybe he sold out for the money, and you know what? He's a billionaire. I don't blame him, but, you know, I wish he came out with something. Maybe he has, and I just missed it, but, you know, George Lucas and Star Wars has meant so much to me, and that's why I've had such these thoughts today about just thinking about George Lucas. And I just remember my grandpa showing me Star Wars on VHS, and my grandparents spoiled me on Christmas with like all these Star Wars action figures. And then, you know, I signed up for Mutton Bustin', and I did good, and my mom got me a $100 Lego set, which was like so expensive at the time, and I was so happy. I remember one time I'd gotten a Lego set around the holidays, and then my mom was in the hospital for like a week or something, and the way that made me feel better was I was just building my Lego set, and I couldn't wait to show her the Lego set once she got out. This whole idea of me being a film major and making YouTube videos was because of my 3DS. I used to record my Lego Star Wars guys fighting in wars, and I just think that because of George Lucas, I am so thoughtful and creative in my life that it's just sad to see that he doesn't do it anymore. And granted, he probably is creative. He probably has deep thoughts and has a diary or something and writes stuff down. But I wish the world could see it. And so yeah, I love Star Wars. May the 4th be with you. And George Lucas, I hope you're doing well. And unlock the files, man. Unlock we need the Lucas files. I hope everyone has a blessed day, a blessed May the 4th. I'm uploading this tonight, but maybe I'll watch it after if anyone watches it. But May the 4th be with you.